11. The role of religious traditions in ESP. Introduction to the spiritual dimension of ESP. In addition to the practical component of ESP, there is a profound intersection between extrasensory perceptions and the spiritual dimension. Since time immemorial, humanity has sought to understand and connect with the divine, with the unseen, with the afterlife. This innate desire to transcend the everyday has often coincided with experiences of an ESP nature. Let us examine, for example, the ancient figure of the shaman. In indigenous cultures around the world, shamans were considered the mediators between the physical and spiritual worlds. Through rituals, dances, and songs, they entered altered states of consciousness, receiving visions and messages from spiritual entities. These experiences, which can be classified as ESP, were deeply rooted in a context of spiritual meaning and purpose. Similarly, in the great spiritual traditions of the East, such as Buddhism and Hinduism, extrasensory perception is not seen as an extraordinary phenomenon, but as a natural ability that can emerge through deep meditative practices. The sacred texts of these traditions, such as the Vedas or Buddhist scriptures, refer to individuals with the divine eyes, or the ability to know past lives. However, it is not only the Oriental or shamanic traditions that recognize these abilities. The great monotheistic religions, which will be examined in the next section, present numerous stories of prophets, saints, and mystics who have had visions, revelations, and premonitory dreams. These individuals often did not actively seek out these experiences. Instead, they were called or are chosen by a superior force to receive messages intended for a wider audience. A common theme in all these traditions is the connection between ESP and transcendence. Extrasensory experiences are not an end in themselves, rather, they are seen as vehicles leading to a deeper understanding of reality, the universe, and the divine. This link between ESP and transcendence will be further explored in the last paragraph of this chapter. It is also interesting to note that despite different cultural and religious interpretations, ESP experiences have striking similarities. This universality suggests that, beyond cultural or religious barriers, humanity shares a common substrate of experience and a desire to connect with something greater. Furthermore, spirituality offers an ethical and moral framework for ESP. While extrasensory abilities can be used in many ways, spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of using them ethically and in service to others. This protects both the individual and the community from possible abuse or misunderstanding. In the next section, we will explore how major monotheistic religions, such as Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, treat and interpret ESP experiences. While some of these traditions may view certain aspects of ESP with suspicion, it is undeniable that they have had a profound impact on the understanding and acceptance of extrasensory perceptions in Western culture. ESP in monotheistic religions. The great monotheistic traditions of the West, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, have a rich and complex history of interaction with phenomena of extrasensory perception. While these religions have had different attitudes toward ESP, it cannot be denied that they have influenced and shaped Western understanding of such experiences. Take, for example, Christianity. In the Gospels, numerous miraculous episodes are narrated that can be associated with ESP phenomena, such as the visions of Mary and Paul on the road to Damascus. Such events were interpreted as divine or angelic manifestations. However, while the Church recognized the divine origin of such visions, it was often wary of personal claims of ESP ability, fearing possible misunderstanding or manipulation. Judaism, with its deep roots in ancient history, tells of prophets such as Isaiah and Jeremiah who received direct messages from God. These prophetic revelations, often coming through dreams or visions, are central to the Old Testament. Similarly to the Christian attitude, even in Judaism, while recognizing the importance of such divine communications, there was a certain caution towards individual claims of prophetic abilities. Islam, for its part, places the revelation received by the Prophet Muhammad through the Archangel Gabriel at the center of its narration. These revelations, collected in the Quran, are the cornerstone of the Islamic faith. Again, while acknowledging the divine nature of such experiences, there is also an emphasis on the importance of caution and correct interpretation. In all three of these traditions, a tension emerges between acknowledging divine manifestations and being wary of individual claims. This prudence comes from a deep understanding of human nature and the possibility of error or manipulation. Importantly, while ESP experiences can be viewed as gifts or blessings, they can also be susceptible to misinterpretation or misuse. Mystical visions and revelations, which will be the subject of the next paragraph, represent a particular aspect of ESP experiences in monotheistic traditions. These episodes, often deeply personal and transformative, offer us a unique insight into the divine and the relationship between the individual and the infinite. Through examining these experiences, we can further delve into the complex interplay between faith, extrasensory perception, and spirituality in the world's great religious traditions. Mystical visions and revelations. In the fabric of spiritual and religious traditions, mystical experiences occupy a prominent place, often representing moments of intimate and profound contact with the divine. These episodes, characterized by visions, insights, or perceptions that go beyond the five senses, have been a source of inspiration, guidance, and transformation for many individuals throughout the ages. One of the most emblematic examples can be found in the life of Saint Teresa of Avila, a 16th-century Christian mystic. Describing her profound spiritual experiences, Saint Teresa spoke of ecstasies and mystical unions with the divine, often accompanied by visions of Christ and angels. These experiences were not only manifestations of spiritual pleasure but also powerful moments of revelation and guidance for her religious mission. Similarly, in the Islamic world, figures such as the poet and mystic Rumi have recounted ecstatic and visionary experiences. Through his poetry, Rumi expressed his deep connection with infinity and his relentless search for divine truth, often through perceptions that went beyond normal sensory experience. Mystical experiences, however, are not unique to monotheistic traditions. Ancient shamanic traditions from different cultures, for example, are filled with tales of visions and astral travel, in which the shaman contacts spirits and forces from beyond to receive wisdom, healing, or direction. What unites these different traditions is the understanding that mystical experiences represent a bridge between the physical world and the divine, a channel through which spiritual knowledge can flow. While these experiences can vary in form and content, they often feature similar themes of togetherness, transformation, and revelation. However, it is important to emphasize that not all visions or revelations are automatically accepted as authentic by religious communities. Spiritual traditions have developed rigorous criteria for assessing the authenticity and provenance of such experiences, recognizing the potential for deception or delusion. Looking to Eastern traditions, such as Buddhism and Hinduism, we find further facets and understandings of extrasensory experiences. Though different in their approach and their theology, these traditions offer further perspectives on the nature of mystical visions and their role in the spiritual life. As we explore these traditions in the next paragraph, we will dive into a profound and fascinating exploration of the connection between mind, spirit, and perceptions beyond the ordinary senses. ESP in Buddhism and Hinduism. In Eastern traditions, perception beyond the ordinary limits of the mind and senses is closely linked to the paths of self-realization and enlightenment. Both Buddhism and Hinduism have dealt extensively with extrasensory abilities, not as an ultimate goal, but as byproducts of deep spiritual practice. In the Hindu context, siddhis represent supernatural powers or abilities that emerge as the individual progresses on his or her spiritual path. Described in ancient texts such as Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, these siddhis can range from telepathy to clairvoyance, levitation to precognition. However, Patanjali cautions that while alluring, these powers can divert the aspirant from the true goal of yoga, which is union with the divine or supreme self. An example is the story of Visvamitra, a king who, through intense ascetic practices, acquired great powers, but was then sidetracked from his spiritual path due to his attachment to these siddhis. Buddhism, while acknowledging the existence of similar powers, also regards them as secondary effects of meditation and the path to enlightenment. The Buddha himself is often described in the texts as possessing various supernatural abilities, but he always emphasized that true fulfillment lies not in manifesting such powers, but in attaining nirvana, liberation from suffering. In the Jataka, a collection of stories about the Buddha's previous lives, incidents are recounted in which the future Buddha, still in the form of a bodhisattva, demonstrated the ability to recall his past lives or to perceive the thoughts of others. But, again, these stories serve more as ethical examples than expositions of ESP powers. Similarly, the Vajrayana tradition of Tibetan Buddhism refers to Otolku, reincarnated teachers recognized for their ability to maintain awareness through death and rebirth. Such figures, such as the Dalai Lama, are seen as embodiments of compassion and wisdom, rather than mere examples of extrasensory abilities. These Eastern approaches to ESP underscore a crucial point. While extrasensory abilities may emerge as a result of spiritual practice, they should never become the primary focus. Hindu and Buddhist traditions invite us to look beyond, to seek deep inner fulfillment rather than outer powers. In the following paragraph, we will move from these ancient Eastern traditions to the practice of shamanism, exploring how the latter approaches perceptions beyond the ordinary senses and the role they play in healing and connecting with the spiritual world. Shamanism and extrasensory perceptions. Shamanism, one of the oldest forms of spiritual practice, is found in indigenous cultures around the world. While varying in cultural and ritualistic details, these traditions share a common core: the shaman's ability to enter altered states of consciousness to communicate with and mediate between the spiritual world and the physical world. Through rituals, dances, songs, and the use of sacred plants, shamans undertake journeys to other realities. On these journeys, they receive insights, healings, and messages from spirit guides, ancestors, or totem animals. This ability to see beyond the ordinary world is intrinsically linked to extrasensory perceptions. For example, in many cultures, shamans are said to have the ability to see disease or energy imbalances in patients, to perceive distant events, or to predict future events. A notable example comes from Siberian shamans, who claim to fly to cosmic heights to receive advice from the stars, or dive deep into the earth to speak with subterranean spirits. In South America, ceremonies with ayahuasca, a psychoactive brew, allow participants to experience profound and transformative visions, often guided by an expert shaman. However, in addition to extrasensory perceptions, shamanism places a great emphasis on responsibility. These skills are not pursued for self-elevation or curiosity, but rather for community service. The shaman, as mediator between the worlds, has a duty to use his abilities to heal, advise, and protect his people. Interestingly, despite cultural and geographic distance, many shamanic traditions share similar themes regarding extrasensory perceptions. This suggests not only a universality of human experiences in these altered states of consciousness, but also a possible common neurological or psychological basis for such perceptions. After exploring ancient shamanic practices, our journey through spirituality and ESP will take us into the world of esoteric teachings. These traditions, often shrouded in symbolism and mystery, offer further perspectives on the nature of perceptions beyond the ordinary senses and how they can be developed and understood. Esoteric teachings and ESP. Esoteric teachings, often shrouded in mystery and symbolism, have always fascinated the human mind. Dating back to ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia, these traditions have been jealously guarded by secret orders, initiatory schools, and mystical brotherhoods. They represent a complex of beliefs and practices that seek to reveal the secrets of the universe, the origin of life, and the true nature of the human being. Central to many esoteric traditions is the notion of the human being as a microcosm, a miniature reflection of the universe or macrocosm. This correlation is often described through intricate symbolic correspondences between the body, mind, soul, and the various spheres or levels of the cosmos. Through these matches, initiates believe they can access higher levels of awareness and perception. A classic example of such an approach is the Kabbalah, an ancient Jewish mystical system of thought. Through meditation on the Sephirot of the Tree of Life, Kabbalists seek to ascend through various levels of reality, gaining profound insights into the nature of God and creation. During these meditations, it is common to experience visions, hear voices, or have insights that go beyond normal sensory perception. Similarly, in alchemical traditions, the alchemical work is not only a series of chemical processes, but also an inner journey. The alchemist, by transmuting raw materials into gold, also seeks to transform himself, to purify his soul and to access higher awareness. It is not uncommon that during this process, the alchemist experiences perceptions that defy conventional explanations. Ancient Greek mystery schools, such as the Eleusinian Mysteries, offered initiates direct experiences of the divine through secret rites. These ceremonies were said to reveal mysteries about life, death, and immortality, transporting the initiates into states of ecstasy and communion with the gods. These are just a few examples of how esoteric traditions have addressed and incorporated experiences that can be classified as ESP. However, it is essential to emphasize that, in these traditions, such experiences are not an end in themselves. Rather, they are regarded as signs along the path to deeper spiritual realization or as means to better understand the nature of reality. Today, in an age of rationalism and science, it might be easy to dismiss these ancient practices as mere superstitions. However, the persistent interest in esotericism and its techniques suggests that such traditions touch something deep in the human psyche. Perhaps, beyond symbols and rituals, they offer tools and paths to explore and expand the boundaries of our perception. As we continue our journey through the intersections of spirituality and ESP, the next step will take us to examine meditation and contemplative practices. These techniques, while central to many religious and spiritual traditions, also offer hands-on, practical approaches to developing and sharpening extrasensory abilities. Meditation and contemplative practices. Meditation, in all its variations, is a universal practice present in many spiritual traditions. It is a method of calming the mind, focusing and ultimately expanding awareness. While the specific techniques vary, the ultimate goal is often similar: to unite the individual self with a universal or divine consciousness, achieving enlightenment or spiritual awakening. In Eastern traditions, such as Buddhism and Hinduism, meditation is seen as a means of transcending the cycle of birth and death, freeing oneself from suffering and realizing the true nature of the self. For example, in Zen Buddhism, the practice of zazen meditation aims to bring the meditator into a state of a mindless mind, where conceptual thinking ceases and the true nature of reality can be directly perceived. If this journey between spirituality and ESP has fascinated you, I invite you to click like and subscribe to our channel. Grow with us and don't miss out on future explorations. Your participation illuminates this path. Thanks for being here.